rising to the top. Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm when I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamal skinny. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it. We chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm when I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamal skinny.
Yes. What is up, everybody? Joshua Casper back at you with Plugin Boutique, and I'm very excited today because I'm joined by not one, not two, but three very special guests. We've got Nick, Martijn, and Thijs. How you doing, fellas?
Not bad. Wonderful. Pretty good.
So who is who, just for people who might not know, before we jump in?
I'm Thijs.
Nice.
The man on the left.
No, okay. All right.
Nick. Martijn.
Perfect. So today, obviously, we're looking to jump in and take a close look at a plugin that you recently made. Now, we've had a time a few months ago where I came over and we shot a ton of video tutorial stuff, which people should be encouraged to check out. So I think today what we should do is encourage people in the chat to send questions for you to kind of steer this live stream to gear towards what they want to know. How does that sound?
Yeah, like why are you guys standing?
Yeah. Let's start with that.
No, he meant that the audience asks questions, not you.
Okay.
But maybe Nick also has questions.
Nick,
like, why is he standing?
No, it's something I want to answer.
Oh.
Is it a health thing? Is it you're trying to burn extra calories today?
It's a health thing, but it's also because we are trying to sort of hot seat the DAW here. It's easier if we can all just...
Yeah. We don't have massive chairs rolling in and out.
All right, nice. Well, if you want, we can just jump right into it. I'm going to flip over to your DAW so we can see our cameras and your DAW now. Why don't you give us sort of an intro to what Vision 4X is before we even play audio?
So it's our plugin that helps you kind of see what you're doing, see your sound. That's the tagline. And it's basically based on us having used different kinds of analyzers for years and years and years. And we were always loved features of certain ones and missed features on others. And we, at one point, decided we'd love to have one built that has everything that we really like in one, with very efficient screen real estate and with real nice syncing and correlation features. So that's what you're looking at right now. This is 4 analyzers in one screen, and this little X here allows you to scale them. And they basically run in sync with your DAW. So right now it's not running in sync because we were freely playing audio before, but yeah. So here you can already see that the waveform and the spectrogram are running in sync with each other. And that's one of the things we really wanted, a spectrogram, which is this one, which for us is very, very useful in judging the low end on mixes and on sounds. And especially when we were coming up, making drum and bass in our bedrooms, it was really hard to judge the low end. Yeah.
And whether like we had maybe a loud frequency in our studio because we were in 3 concrete rooms with like big resonant frequencies in them. So if we would EQ to the sound that we were hearing, we would kind of boost certain frequencies and dip other ones. But actually, we could see on the visualizer, like that's not necessary. That's your speakers doing that. That's not in the song. That's in your room. So for less than ideal circumstances, which is most circumstances when it comes to kind of under 100 hertz, 100 hertz frequencies, it's really productive to rely on visuals a little bit. I mean, it's obviously not the same vibe as blasting a sub. You don't feel the visuals like that, but you can trust them a little bit more to tell you what it actually is that's happening.
Do you find that it's still very helpful even when you have monitors that can go down as low as 30, 40 hertz?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was mixing a song today, and the first thing I do is load it on the master bus. Just like this reference graph here is basically a loudness guide, and it helps a lot to just see if your mix is a bit like bright or dull, if your sub is hitting where you want it to hit.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's already been asked and a couple of people have sort of boosted it up, and that is people really want to be able to load in their own reference curves.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
What version of the plugin are we on now? Has it had some updates since its release?
This is the version that has been released. So this is not an update that people haven't seen yet if they own the plugin. This is basically the plugin as it was released.
Is there a thingy, if you click the vision thing, you get a pop-up, no?
What? Which one? This one?
No. That's what I know.
Yeah, no, this is the release version. And obviously, yeah, we when we started implementing these curves, we immediately, wanted to see how we could put our own in, and this is a selection of what we put in and what the guys at Excite put in. So it was already obviously we were already capturing curves that way by actually capturing it in the plugin. So this is a feature that is in the plugin. It's just not. It's currently being built so that you can really capture your own, and it has the GUI to accompany it. Gotcha. But the curves you're seeing are captured inside of it already.
So the technology is there. You're just looking to maybe implement a UI to allow other people to. Oh, perfect.
Also, because I guess this is a fair bit of real estate already in terms of interface for an analyzer. Like, we didn't want to overly overload the users or the first time experience with tons of buttons, too many buttons anyway.
We got another question that's kind of in the same realm, and that is Vision 4X standalone, so it can maybe analyze system audio?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you're running it in standalone, it automatically won't be in sync, so the sync button won't be on, so that it is just continually running. But if it's in sync mode, it allows you easier to sort of see where you are in the audio in your DAW.
So do you think once the ability to load or make your own reference curves is enabled, we could listen to something on maybe Spotify to get that curve, and then save that and be able to use it in the DAW.
Yes, technically, but like routing audio from app to app is really shitty, and it really depends on your operating system, how it works.
Well, it would work here if I just run it standalone and I play audio for wherever, it'll just go through it.
But
Spotify too.
Then
and then you can just save the curve, and then you can even just open Vision in your DAW with that curve saved, and then use it in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Although obviously it's nice to have your own curves. I find that it's more of a way. For me, the reference curve is a way of calibrating kind of your eyes to calibrating your interpretation of the bar graph. So mine, it's on pink noise now, and pink noise obviously isn't really what I would be going for in a mix, but because I know where I'm at, I learn the pink noise curve and what my position. I actually want the same reference curve more often, and I would not want to go on Spotify if I'm working on a certain song. Go on Spotify, find something similar, and get a single song as a reference. I would be careful with that. I think in general people compare their music to other people's music way too much. That's why we made this plugin.
But I have the same. I have like based on the pink noise curve, I have like a memorized curve where I'm like, my hi-hats should like be as loud as this and not get much quieter than this, based on the release settings that I have. And then the sub I want a little bit louder over this thing, stuff like that. And then if I would change the curve, I completely have to unlearn everything that I learned in relationship to this. So I think it's more important that you just stick to one curve and start like learning how you want your tracks to sit, and also work with it a bit, because songs that might look the same might not sound the same because of like power distribution and averages. So it might kind of need some tweaking, also based more on your ears than on the visualizer.
Copy that. And so we're looking at the pink noise curve there. Are there some other what are the other presets that ship with Vision 4X at the moment?
There's the hard drum and bass.
Why is that there? That doesn't make sense.
Basically, these are averages of like a bunch of songs that we kind of earmarked as like, these are kind of relevant songs in whatever, like, don't want to call it a genre, but like a sound. And then we started kind of taking the averages of them. It's not super exact. It's just like something to give you a starting curve.
Yeah. And this was also, as we were designing the process, this was kind of a late stage addition, which is also why the custom curves isn't in there. And so we had to sort of go over these curves a few times to sort of get them workable. For example, if you take the pink noise curve, it's not really a correct pink noise curve, because pink noise is kind of a theory really about how sound falls off over the frequency spectrum, and it would in most cases be a lot quieter than what you're seeing here. If you're looking at the max line of the reference curve there, that's not going to, when you play pink noise through it, it's not going to hit that max line, because in general it would be quieter because pink noise isn't dynamic, but we're looking for like maximum dynamic range with that line. So we've had to gain it a little bit. I think it's even a distorted version of pink noise just to get the capturing to move it up that far to the right.
I got another question. You can obviously kind of zoom in and get higher resolution on most if not all of the graphs in Vision 4X. When you do that, does the reference curve also zoom in resolution wise as well? Or does it stay more like an average?
It will be in the same. It doesn't up the resolution of the bands. Well, actually, yes, it does.
Can you set it to lines? Also.
Yes. So that's a million, right?
Yeah. And now if you zoom in, I mean, the resolution is still limited to the FFT window and like technical stuff like that. So it will still be somewhat limited, and then you can change the settings, the all-round.
Gotcha. Another user was wondering if you could show us what a good bass line should look like in Vision 4X.
Red. I mean, generally you want your fundamental to be kind of the loudest frequency. Can we do like a
BS?
No, this is
Zal ik
not
hem
a great
eventjes
sound for this.
Zal ik hem eventjes hierop zetten? Gewoon even zo.
We're
Putting on sync.
doing this in Bitwig, so me and Martijn are a bit
Wait.
wigged.
A bit wigged.
Now I work in Ableton, so I'm sure I can figure it out.
Live baseline.
Hello, please for loading.
While that's loading, we've got a question from Alex Kitchios, what's the difference between the light version and the standard version of Vision 4X?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't remember.
Alex. Okay.
That's
I'm sure it's detailed on Plugin Boutique if you want to slide over there and look at the page. I don't know either, to be honest.
All right. I think it's something to do with how customizable it is, basically, and I think one of the light versions maybe doesn't have is only one window and doesn't have the four windows, I think.
Gotcha.
So
if you can actually pull the Vision plugin a little bit to the left, it's kind of behind our webcams. Yeah.
like that?
A little bit more, just a little bit more. That's it.
All right. What does a good baseline look like? Well, this is red. This is 50 hertz. No, not?
no, that's 25. No, that's 50 hertz.
Oh, yeah. And then here you see like a very normal roll off in the way the overtones are distributed in energy-wise.
Yeah, remember we can't hear you when you're playing music and
All right. So
What is it?
yeah, but I want to show. Yeah, can we not do the overlay for a second, because then
by the way, Gareth and Solo are in the chat saying the light version has just the spectrogram. So we have confirmation.
Exactly.
all right. So now this stays at least for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we need to turn the DAW down just a little bit if we can. The output.
Yeah. After that.
Yeah, man. Well, you can use that too. Oh my gosh.
Before listening to
We gotta turn it down, man. Oh my god, I had to turn it down on the stream.
All right. Can you hear us now?
No, I mean the DAW audio is just like really loud.
Yeah.
We're turning it down.
That's what
Okay.
the plugin's for.
Yeah.
Can you hear us now?
It should be a bit quieter now.
Yes, it is a bit quieter. Thank you.
All right. So you see how every overtone is a little bit less loud than the previous one in the weighting of this frequency graph. And basically that's what a normal energy distribution looks like, but then in sound design, obviously, you mess around a lot with like highlighting certain overtones and not highlighting certain other overtones. So a good baseline could be many things.
Yeah, I think what's important to think about is if the baseline, where you want the attention to be, there it will have to be red or at least bright in this color setting. Because sometimes, for example, if you have a sub with a bit of movement from the fundamental to a harmonic, it's also important that that harmonic gets enough room to breathe. And then maybe at that moment, the harmonic is more important than the sub for a second, or the attack of a sound is more important because that's what's pushing the groove forward.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we
I'm
have,
gonna show like
speaking of color maps, we have a question if you can customize the colors in Vision 4X.
No, not at the moment. No.
there are different presets, but we always work with this one because it's the monochrome ones look a lot nicer. They're nicer to look at, but the color map just makes it so clear what is loud and what isn't loud, and it makes it a bit less. Yeah, it's a bit grayscale. Like there's not as much definition if you take out the colors.
But we are definitely considering people being able to upload or change their own gradient map.
Right.
Because it's basically a gradient map going from 0 to 1, and you could theoretically put any colors in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
I detuned the saw, so now it's 2 detuned saws, and you see that the fundamental is kind of phase canceling here, and then the first harmonic is more exaggerated in loudness. And basically, that's
Waveform isn't hooked up. Does that work for the waveform? Waveform it's like it's just a saw. I don't see any detuning.
Is that the stereo?
Yeah, it's
but it's
see, that's really what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Oh wait, we have to do this. Whoops.
het was stereo.
This is...
Stereo reese.
So, yes.
Yeah, we did. We thought it would be a good idea not to prepare anything for the stream and just go and take questions. So sometimes we're a bit clumsy.
Please do send your questions. You can at Plugin Boutique if you're watching on the Plugin Boutique YouTube channel, and I will get those asked on the stream. Perhaps, gentlemen, if we could look at the kick baseline relationship and how to use 4x to make sure that's cracking as it should be.
Sure. But in a sec, just to continue Thijs's little thing about this, what does a good baseline look like? So in this case, if you're mixing this, you might be thinking, oh, my bass here is gone. I need to EQ bass in there. But if you use this tool well, like you can here, then you'll see that the sub frequency is literally canceled out. So there would be no point in trying to EQ this back in. You have made a reese that cancels itself out. You can see the cancellation happening all across the spectrum on all of the harmonics. It's just happening a lot faster there. So you can see here that it's happening, 8 times as fast or whatever as this cancellation is happening. Basically, this bump here is a good sign, meaning that the emphasis of the sound is kind of transferred to the first harmonic, which is what will give it its movement. And if that movement is what you're after, then you know that you can emphasize this maybe right here. You could
EQ that.
EQ this, because you can also tell that here our level is dipping a little bit. So if you would bring up a filter resonance just here, you could really emphasize that first harmonic.
How often do you find yourself doing, that detailed of a mix decision with an EQ?
If you have a song that is basically one of these sounds constantly repeating, maybe playing a semitone and some drums on top, then you might find yourself doing it because the sound might be playing, 500 times. And if it's a one shot that you have a lot of control over in your DAW, then it kind of stands to reason that you would go this far if you want to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it really depends. Like, are you mixing it with vocals and lead synths and other instruments, or is it like really soloed and up front? Because then you want it to take all that space and maximize it, and otherwise you might want to just kind of let it wobble a bit in the background and not push it too much, because focus in energy in the mix should be on other things anyway, or at least coexisting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We got another question from Alex V, who's wondering what the difference is between the master channel and the master post LM settings. Is that a...
No.
LM settings? I'm not sure where he's getting that from.
LIM, sorry. It's quite far away.
Oh, right.
Limiter,
I think we
I'm
have
guessing?
a pre-limiter here, maybe a post-limiter, pre-limiter. So the settings, one of the things I like to do is to run it pre-limiter and give this waveform at the bottom here a little bit of headroom, which is this. And what that means is that it will be able to, the waveform will be able to display values above 0, and those values above 0 are the ones that your limiter will be dealing with. So if I turn this sound up, for example, now, and maybe add a little, even more
I
level.
think it'll be loud enough already.
See, now you can see that it's hitting that headroom and it's going above 0. So now our master, whatever's on the master, will have to deal with that. If you put this analyzer behind your limiter, after your limiter, then it's not going to show you those peaks because the limiter will already have dealt with it and it will all be 0 dB. And I find it really useful to run it pre, because then I can see what's triggering the limiter to do its thing. And you can identify where your mix might have a problem that is making your limiter react. And it allows me to listen much easier for artifacts and kind of limiting problems, or clipping problems, saturation, whatever you're using on the master, because of this level.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is, I mean, obviously you would want to physically move it before or after the limiter, and the preset is just going to give you that headroom to be able to see it, so you don't have to go in and...
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So this in the pre-limiter one would be in the chain. It would be before the limiter plugin, and the post-limiter preset it for after.
Yeah, and so the preset, the main difference between those presets will be the headroom that's already been turned down, so you can see above 0.
Yeah, that's probably the main difference. Yeah.
We got another question coming in. Is
It's
there
not
a...
the kick-bass relation, right?
Oh.
Thing. You had a question about the kick-bass relation, or was
But
it
it's a very long
Yeah.
and we'll be like freewheeling for 10 minutes. So maybe if there's short questions, we can answer those before and then go into the kick-bass thing.
Well, yeah, we got a question just about if the capability to rotate the individual windows is coming. I know that you can rotate, I think, all 4 of them at the same time, but if you... Go ahead.
We were messing with this because some people really wanted this part, the normal spectrum, to be the way they're used to it, where it's rotated like this,
And then flipped.
so that it's like up is high and left is low, and now it's obviously down is low frequencies and right is high volume.
Yeah, the good.
But then they weren't. They need to stay in sync. Like this needs to correspond with this, needs to correspond with this. These are 2 relationships that we wanted to preserve.
But we did incorporate a rotation button, which means that you can obviously rotate the whole thing. But if that's not if you know, wait. So now this is really focused around this analyzer being the traditional rotation. And if you want to rotate your individual elements, you could obviously just run the plugin 4 times and just use one of them, and cascade them on your screen the way you want them.
Fractals are really cool, by the way.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah, so it's all about the relationship between the different analyzers where the frequencies line up, and the time lines up.
And I think I agree that it's a little bit uncomfortable at first, the bar graph being up on its side. But to be honest, in a way, it's a much more logical to think about low and high like this, especially in this correlation. And I have personally, now that I've used it a lot, I've become completely used to it. But that rotation feature is there for people who still really can't get their head around the rotation yet and just want the original one. But I'm not sure if we demonstrated properly. But this
You need to freeze it.
this correlates completely to the as you can see here, if I'm freezing it and I'm moving the waveform around, you can see that this is completely correlating all of the individual frames with the levels involved, which is, I think, really, really cool. If I move this through here, so you could say, okay, I want to go over to this part here where I'm looking at mostly
Did we actually
harmonic.
Did we do like a 101 thing where we kind of like play a melody and see how it's like frequencies, loudness in time? I don't think we did. Maybe it's nice to just
to explain the basic principle.
Just play 2 notes instead of 1, so that, and maybe a 2-bar phrase, so that people can really see like like an octave up or something.
Okay. Hang on. So now obviously it's jumping because it's only visualizing 1 bar.
So, yeah. So now you see that what happens, the note changes, the octave shifts, and basically, yeah, to the right is time, up is frequencies, and the color is the loudness. That's the basic function. And you can really clearly see things like vibrato, kick. Like kicks are basically pitching down oscillations, usually sine waves. You can really see how I think Nick just loaded up kick 2, how a pitch envelope on a kick, what it looks like, and how when you change the envelope in the synth, that you also see you see it changing with that in 4x.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shall we show it?
Yeah, sure. So let's turn this one down a little bit. Okay, so first let me see if this is blah blah. Put a little bit of distortion on here because it sounds better. Oh.
Still clipping.
Okay. So we have a kick 2, and I add some kicks.
By the way, kick 2, if you're watching, can you please make me an M1 compatible version? I love this plugin, but I can't use it on my MacBook. Thanks.
I'll let you know if they're in the chat.
Okay. Great.
Can you mute the Reese first?
Now look, now you can already, this is why the pre-master thing is so great. Now you see that it's creating all these weird problems because I'm just playing a long kick right across a Reese with no sidechaining. And obviously this kick is quite long and quite terrible. But it's this sub part is instantly phasing with a Reese and just creates all kinds of unusual waveforms that basically create distortion very easily. So if we were to sidechain this, first we probably want to make sure that the kick 2 is a little bit more the way we want it. Sounds a little bit better, maybe a bit shorter. Something a little bit like this.
Actually not showing. This is like the opposite of what I do. I really, when I'm doing this, messing with the
Envelopes.
The pitch envelope, I really let it like always show and run so that I can really see like what.
Yeah.
So I would go like pitch. Is it scalable? No, it's also not scalable.
So it's usually running on a separate screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, like full screen.
Or we can only share one screen at the same time.
But basically, this is how I make kicks most of the time. So I'll do it a bit longer now for just for now. But
The perfect
Like-
kick.
yeah, there's obviously many variations, but we can keep it at this for now.
Yeah. And one of the things that's important to note here is that in this current setting, this is set to all-round mode, which is the most favorable mode. That's to do with the amount of FFT bins. But if you set it to transient, the time response is quicker, but the frequency response suffers a little bit. So this shows you a very detailed picture of where the transient is in the pitch domain here, but it also gives you this extra information as if the pitch is wobbling because it's so fast that it can't really read low frequencies as sine waves. It will read them as individual transient events, so you get this kind of stuttery look, almost as if there's something wrong with your sound card if you're playing a sine wave through it.
Because the full oscillation is much longer than the window you're capturing, so it doesn't capture it and then recaptures it, and it sees the onset of the new window as like a new attack rather than a continuous oscillation of a sine.
Take off some of the range. You can see.
Well, I'll just put it back.
You want this?
Yeah, maybe.
Just to up a little bit?
I usually have it set to 20
Yeah.
myself.
So, and it's funny, this also, this little blue thing, that's this.
You wouldn't hear that, but you can see it, right?
You see, like this little curve here was outputting just a little bit of bass there, and you could hardly see it because it's like, it was like, what, like that? So now you are seeing that here, and you could obviously see it here as well, but that's one of those things that obviously your perception is different, but also visualizing, like the way this visualizes the waveform and the way that does is like differently weighted, and the scaling is different. So it can be useful to have something like this.
That's wild. Do you think something that pushed back would have an effect on the mix?
Yeah, could. It
could add up, yeah.
It can add up, and it could also cause something in your mix that is something else, like an effect that you hear in your mix, but you can't pinpoint where it is. For example, then this would be showing you that in advance.
I wanted to show. I don't know. We were maybe still working with the sidechain first.
Yeah.
But I want to do some. Show quickly how I layer kicks, how I would go about layering kicks with 4x, but I can do that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's first do a little low pass Reese. So we're already getting quite a little bit of level, so let's just limit this for now. Right. So now what we're seeing is this is where our kicks are hitting, and they're obviously just having to compete with that bass playing. And as you can see, it aligns with it differently every time and creates different problems. So let's sidechain it. I'm just going to use the built-in dynamics from Bitwig. It's basically the same as any other dynamics plugin.
Does it have a pre-roll? What's the name of that? Look ahead?
You can put look ahead in it, yeah. So this is would be the initial setting, and now you can, like, a while ago, something like this would be like, yeah, that sounds good because it obviously has a cool sound, and you feel like it's doing a thing. But when we were starting out, we might sidechain like this because we thought, that's kind of sounds like a sidechaining. That sounds good. But current day production with drums and bass involved usually have quite extreme sidechaining. Basically, not even sidechaining, basically just meaning one sound at a time in the low end.
Yeah.
Anything with high power is one sound at a time.
It used to be that before, like a long time ago, I remember Rob Swire of Pendulum was not using sidechain. He was actually crossfading his kicks into the sub to make sure that none of it was playing at the same time. He didn't trust a compressor plugin, so he was using Nuendo at the time because Nuendo's crossfades and fades were better, like more customizable than Cubase's. That's why he wasn't working in Cubase anymore, but in Nuendo. This is the crossfade options. But yeah, I mean, I use stock Ableton compressor now for sidechaining, and I just work around whatever it does that I don't like. But there are much finer tools available right now.
What are your thoughts on volume automation then? Like, why always use the compressor?
A lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, and the crossfading obviously also does work. I would say that that's kind of like a last solution that you can use at the very end because it means that you have to commit to your sounds a lot, and if you have lots of moving parts in a bass sound or lots of different moments where a kick might hit in the phase of another sound, like you would have to cut all them and manually crossfade all of that. You could do that. For example, when your track is done, you could do that. But before that happens, you want to have a sidechain that sounds at least good and is controlled well.
It really depends on what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways. You can also multi-band sidechain, just the low end or something, or it will just get slightly different sounds.
And I would probably do something more like this, where I would put a note receiver. This is a little bit of a bitwig thing, but put a note receiver that listens to the kick, and just have an envelope on the volume after that, so it's basically just triggered by MIDI instead of audio. And then with the hold parameter, you can basically say how long it has to do it. So now that you can see here, that's where the kick hits, creates an envelope. So you can see the hole that it's making, and obviously you can see here as well that it has a certain amount of attack, which can leave a bit of the waveform still there. So then you can use a pre-delay for it. Mike is the fucking in the way. So this already looks much better, and probably sounds much better. It's very quiet in the studio right now, so I'm not sure if it sounds good. Let's actually turn it up just a little bit.
Yeah, you could turn it up a little bit. Do you think you'd want it that tight, or at that point is it more of an artistic decision whether to have the bass literally come in right after the thick part of the kick, or let a little bit of a dip?
Well, you don't. Yeah, I just made a kick that is very short and has no tail, but obviously you could use a longer tail, and tuning the kick to the bass is also an important thing to keep in mind. Now the kick and the bass don't really sound like they come from the same place, so you might want to go a bit higher on the kick. And one of the things you can use Vision 4X for is you can see where the kick is landing, and then seeing if that's kind of where the root note's playing. So this is now kind of crossing over at the right time. As you can see here, it's creating this overload, which basically means the frequencies are very similar here. So it's landing on the right pitch. And now if I were to take this last bit of the oscillation off by doing something like this, it's probably too short now. No, it's not. See, now that's kind of lining up. So, and if you're tweaking all this stuff, obviously, if I change the pitch transient, the start of the pitch transient, this whole phase will shift, and it all changes again. So, because all that stuff happens, you want something that shows you what it's doing. And it obviously right now isn't perfect, but it could be a starting setup where you can work from, where you know there's a certain amount of a reasonable sidechain happening.
Gotcha.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously, if you want the same phase response there, then you would have to re-trigger this at the same point, or you would have to make a different instance of the kick or the sub. Probably the sub.
It's a different time.
No? Oh, it is. So now you can see that all these phase transitions are the same, which is like not something that you want to basically decide on. If you want this free flowing bass, obviously that's cool and you should totally do that. But this will then let you know what phase problems you're getting across the playback.
Yeah, you can hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a pop there too, but that's because this has no pre look ahead and attack. Because you basically wanted to start a little earlier and have a little bit of attack to not get the click.
Yeah.
So what would you do now to get rid of that peak right there? Is that just as simple as just throwing a limiter on it? Would you not worry about it? Yeah.
That one? Yeah, I would probably, for writing, now I would not really worry about this one too much. I would want to get rid of the click, but not necessarily this, no. I think for writing that's now fine, because you basically want to put in you want to be able to put in tons of kicks and not really worry about it.
Add a pre-delay.
But yeah, this obviously giving us lots of clicks. So in order to get that right, I need to time shift this a little bit.
I mean, that's more of a result of the plugin from Bitwig as opposed to the technique, yeah?
Yes, you could theoretically do this inside of another plugin that doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, the Pro C2 will have look ahead built in.
If you do it a lot though, and you're still playing instruments, your project will get a lot of latency. So your playing instruments will suck if you use look ahead. But it does solve this problem because it knows what's coming before it happens. So you can fade into what's coming rather than react on what's coming.
Still, like, now it's not really hitting right, as you can see. That's better. Yeah, no. and that sort of, like, obviously this is a very crude way to do it with this thing, and there's much, like, you could use something like LFO Tool or other plugins or Volume Shaper that allow you to make a nice curve. You can obviously pre-delay the MIDI trigger if you want. Actually, yeah, I could put the time shift in there, couldn't I?
The other way.
But then I just do it a little earlier. I'm going to give this a little bit. Yeah.
Would you ever find that that little click is desirable though?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Almost like a little bit of a phase offset at the beginning of a nice sine wave. Will give it a little click.
Yeah, it can sound good. And obviously, this is your full mix. Probably wouldn't be this anyway. It would not be a kind of low sultry kick and a low pass bass only. I think that's not really what you would be.
I don't know. Things are pretty minimal these days.
Yeah.
We got a question for you, Nick, and that is, have you switched to Bitwig exclusively these days?
Yes, but if there's like lots of vocal work, like melodyning a vocal, I will go to Cubase.
Why is that?
Because of ARA.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, actually Bitwig's lane recording and comping is pretty good right now, but there isn't like a very audio or something native. So working with audio is a little bit more difficult.
I really miss Very Audio in Ableton. And what I sometimes still go back to Cubase when I work with orchestral libraries because I do not like the way Ableton handles MIDI CC channels. It's really shit compared to Cubase.
It doesn't handle it. Like you can't get multi out, can you? without a third-party plugin?
I don't know about that, but for me, it's the MIDI CC channels. It's the CC. It's like the displaying multiple graphs that I'm writing for like CC1 and CC17 and CC74, for instance. Enabling I can only do one by one, and I can't show the notes at the same time as well. And it's a bit like, come on.
Yeah, Bitwig has the same thing where it's only showing you one lane.
It's 2023. What are we doing?
Mhm.
Let's all
very
send emails to Ableton.
library-oriented thing, and I don't think a lot of people use it. A lot of people use automation lanes rather than MIDI CC channels these days. So I think that's why they're not incorporating it. But yeah, when you're working with libraries, it's nice that they're working Cubase for that reason. Also, there's lots of like project management and template stuff that Cubase is really good at, like really, really good at, and it's just very much optimized, I feel, for scoring and big library work.
Have you even tried Cubase? I think it's been implemented from 11.5 or 12. I think the ARA Melodyne thing. So it's really nice. Instead of very audio, you can
use
Melodyne.
No,
real time.
that's after I left Cubase.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Polyphonic.
Yeah.
We have quite a lot of developers on the channel to do these live streams, and I'd say a majority of them use Cubase. So that says something. I got it's a question from Brandon Tall. Was wondering what ARA is. You mentioned it a couple times. I'll let you take that one.
Audio random access. And that means that if a DAW has it, I think either Reaper or Studio, I think Studio One has it.
Studio One does have it, yep.
Yeah. Cubase has it. Maybe Logic has it too.
I don't think so.
Basically, what it means is you can a plugin that works with the software can access all of the audio inside of your project at any time, any way. Yeah. What that means is if you're using something like Melodyne, you would have to have it read your whole audio file before it can analyze it, and you can.
If you use it as a plugin.
If you use it as a plugin.
In real time is the.
Yeah. You have to have it sort of, transfer the audio to it, which is real time, so you have to listen to it. ARA, that means that Melodyne inside of you, for example, Cubase, can go and read all your audio channels itself and just analyze it faster and as a native editor as well, which is kind of nice. So if in Cubase, if you're opening some audio, you could have it open up as Vari Audio, which is the native Cubase editor. But you can change that to Melodyne, and then Melodyne becomes the native editor, and it's literally in the screen of where your normal editor
with different controls, though, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah. Hey, Thijs, by the way, someone in the chat has let us know that as of the latest update on Kick, it has M1 support.
Oh shit! Thank you. Okay, cool. I'll go in and install. Oh, that's great news.
After the stream, please. After the stream. I know you're excited, but
okay, bye guys. Can't wait.
So another question here was from DJ Emo. What plugins, and I believe it's a hardware unit as well, inspired you to make Vision 4X? There's a few different ones, yeah. Or is that top secret? That might be top secret.
No, the main one is it like wasn't it developed for like what was it, medical purposes?
Yeah, laboratory, like scientific sound analysis or like engineering work where they would do frequency analysis. It wasn't really meant to be for music producers.
Yeah.
It looked almost exactly like this window. Basically, we just wanted that, but then inside our DAW, so it could sync up, and we could sync it with our other visualizers.
It's been completely recoded from the ground up, or it's been coded to have higher low end accuracy, because that's one of the things we really wanted. Have more accuracy in this low end section of the spectrum, so you can clearly see what's going on there, or more clearly see.
Another question a few people have asked is this the only plugin we can expect from you, or is there more in the works, or is that yet to be determined?
Yet to be determined. We are toying around with ideas, but whether we'll actually execute them is unknown at this time. Oh, and another thing I want to add about the predecessor of this thing that it kind of inspired that we were using, was written for Windows 95, so you actually had to hack into a Windows install to get it to even run. And it's still on the website for sale for $499, but that website never changed since the 90s. So like you can't actually buy it. You have to crack it and then kind of hack it your way into Windows so that it will run the thing. So yeah, that's also why we kind of wanted to offer, like, make it available for like 6 times as cheap and actually running on Windows 10 and 11 and
Mac
OS X.
We appreciate your service to keep us out of jail.
Well, it started with the thought that I started hating having to run this second computer in my studio. I was like, I'm ready. Like my computer is now quick enough that I can run this whole analysis on the side. Like 10 years ago, that was like that would be kind of like a resource hog.
Plus the routing would be extremely difficult.
Yeah. And now it's like, oh, we can do that. And why am I still messing around with this cracked old shit-faced piece of shit software when I can just ask someone to go build it with us? And I was like, well, but it'll cost some money. And I was like, yeah, but then we can sell it. And then I have it. You know? And I started talking to Nick about it. He's like, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's going to work. Like, that's going to work. We should do it. And then we approached Plugin Boutique and started making it happen.
That kind of is a good segue into this next question from Data Collaborate, and that is, they're wondering, from conception to release, how long was Vision 4X or the project?
3 years?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
No.
I think a lot of it was in COVID. It was released like almost a year ago now. Nice. No, 6 months ago. Oh, I forget. Last year is a fucking blur. Can I swear on this channel, or is that not appreciated?
I appreciate you asking after doing it. We try to aim to be family friendly. We don't know how old our music producer friends are. So.
We are really family friendly. 2 of us have families.
That's why we didn't swear.
That's why we didn't swear.
Yeah. He's the uncle. That's fine though.
Uncle Fidgets.
Thijs.
Did you want to show us some stuff upper, like above in the frequency spectrum, Thijs? I think you were saying something about mid-range, high-end.
Kick layering, right?
I want to do some very quick like kick layering and see how you can see how a phase flip works when what it does and what I look for. Basically, still across these like different variations, how I kind of, besides the sound, also determine whether one of 2 variations, which ones sounds technically better, like energy-wise is better distributed. But I might need some help from Nick because this is Bitwig, and even though it looks really familiar, I don't know. I was just looking to duplicate the Kick 2 thing, and I was already like, I already hit a
brick wall.
Yeah. So nice.
I just added a hi-hat, everybody.
Woo!
Sign it
for Nick.
Okay.
Adding hi-hats.
This is Control D.
Vision Records is in the chat, so they can sign you. I know I got a connection there.
I'd like an instrument channel, please.
Okay, well, let me show you some great things about Bitwig. So here's Kick 2.
Control G.
Instrument layers.
Yeah.
And now you want a sampler? Or what do you want?
Yeah, just do sampler. Twice, I guess.
Sampler twice. What orientation? Parallel or serial? Why is this taking so long? All right, sampler.
Can you duplicate sampler there?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I'm going to do now is quickly export. How does this open?
Yeah, that's the one thing that's a little bit annoying about Bitwig. This is the edit button for
Right.
VSTs.
Okay. Oh. Render. Generate. Drag into the sampler. That is great about Kick 2. Amazing. Okay, so now I'm gonna randomly make a longer one with a different, completely different pitch envelope, and then drag that in there. Mute the original one. Now I'm playing both. And now I may add this tool thing. Now speakers off.
Mm-hmm.
And then wait, now we need to take this off the thing because I don't want to do it.
Sync.
Or we could also do it with sync on actually, but then the show loads maybe even nicer.
Yeah,
it's drag it on the instrument layer.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the one. But now it's
Solo.
Huh? Oh yeah, of course.
That's the difference, right?
That's a big difference.
No,
it's not.
The speed?
No, wait.
That's the
You're
pitch.
playing high MIDI, and you're swapping the phase on everything.
Oh,
Both.
Okay.
One of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so invert phase on one of them.
This is
turn
great.
off the MIDI tracking. It's just a Bitwig crash course.
Yeah. All right. And now, can I? Wait, can I set this to
Stretch.
no?
Just
Maybe
playing.
just-
10-second decay. Release time.
I just wanted to play the whole file basically. Where's this one?
The speed is negative.
Okay. Now these are somewhat, I don't know, demonstrating. They will at least. There's a big difference now between the phases. And basically what I want is generally for this feature, one continuous line to stay intact when I layer things. So either I high pass this off the other layer, maybe this is something that isn't in neither, it's just something that pops up when these two things get mixed, but I constantly look at this and I want basically a continuous line going from high to low and staying somewhat stable in energy. So the color red should stay red.
So
and
I see like a praying mantis right now. And what you're saying is like the hands of the praying mantis could be causing an issue and you'd want to get rid of it.
Yeah. Like this is clean. And if I add this one, it adds some dirty energy. So either I can high pass this or try what happens if I phase swap it, because sometimes things just align really nicely. And then you have also this mini hash delay, or what was it called? Align?
Time shift?
Time shift. Which you can also use to get it in a different phase. I mean, I'm using two random samples quickly.
It looks like a pepper. Well, and I think, I mean, this is your workflow, but you obviously want to listen to what sounds good. I mean, if you have a line like this, it just means that the bass travels smoothly with continuous level throughout those ranges, which means that on various sound systems with different emphasis and different capabilities, at least a part of that kick will come across clearly. If you have a very clear resonance in one part, that can be really cool for your song and you can still keep it, but it does mean that it might sound a little different on a big PA compared to a home system, etc., etc. So the safe, clean option is to go for clean sine wave sweeps. But they are also really boring. I already saw some people talking about how, you know, that's what a kick should always look like. And when we started using these analyzers, we are also like really focused on that red continuous line. But I find, for example, when making house music, that kicks that have that perfect sine wave transparency so are boring. And the cooler kicks are the ones that are not like that.
Yeah, but this is a problem, I would say. Like, I mean, this kick sounds like shit. That's not the point. What I was trying to demonstrate is that I keep looking at it until I, like, yeah, you can fade it in or you can high pass this one.
That's the other. Oh no, it's not the other one. Where is it? It's the other one.
But I want to fade this in.
Yeah, the other one is so short that if you fade it in, there will be nothing.
No, but wait, this is the long one.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of the attack. So that's only the other kick playing there. But it's very quiet. Like, you see that? This doesn't make sense.
It's great that we didn't prepare this.
You see how the whole rest of the kick disappears when this attack goes up?
But let's pitch the short one up a bit so it kind of hits the same. Now if I mute it, it's completely different, obviously, but it doesn't sound like it's fucking it up anymore. Like, to me, I think this is going to be okay. Like, when I start mixing this and mixing it with other sources, it's going to be okay. Whereas if I mix this with other sources, just purely OCDE wise, like spectrogram wise, I'm like, I should probably fix this, because otherwise later I'm going to get some clipping, because this is just super unstable energy. Like,
and you can see it as well in the waveform very clearly that here it creates a much bigger bump than if the pitch goes up. See, now it becomes quite even because this aligns nicer.
Yeah.
So I got a question. Obviously, the three of you are really well known for incredibly clean, really heavy low-end music. I think that's fair to say. Do you really spend a lot of time when you're in the creation stage, sort of the creative mode? Do you spend a lot of time synthesizing your kick from the ground up to make sure it's perfect before you even move on? Do you ever find an issue if you don't do that, having to go back and then it kind of changes the character and you're used to it by then and it causes an issue? Like, what's the plan of attack with kicks? Because obviously they're such a fundamental part of your music and just music in general.
Sometimes you're lucky. Like, I was talking to a friend and she said how much she loved this specific kick drum, and I was like, okay, I'll go to the first version and kind of figure out how I did it. And the first version already had the same kick. It was like, oh, I actually can't show how I made it, because apparently I was lucky and it was there from version 1 and I never had to change it, layer it. Never had to do much to it.
It's also a matter of what choices you make in early stages in general. Like, you can adjust things forever and trying to fix problems, but if you pick the wrong sort of angle to go about making a track, then yeah, you might get stuck trying to fix problems that you will never be able to fix.
Or you change other things in the song, and all of a sudden it needs a different kick than before.
Yeah, but for writing, I mean, I think in general you can say that there are not that many people that get inspired by these kind of tools in a creative way, as that there are people that would be inspired by other tools in a creative way, like a piano or something. For me personally, I also find this inspiring because of the more architectural approach to sound and the experimentation within that. I find that really exciting for making music. But it's not always important at all. There's often lots of writing situations in which you don't want to start making a kick from scratch, of course. But then still, if at some point you realize, okay, this track is going somewhere, but now I want to redo the kick, or I want to redo this because of a need in the song, then obviously yes. And that goes for every sound. Sometimes you need sounds that are very functional, and not necessarily expressive. So not all the elements in your track have to be super expressive or have to be functional. There should be a mix of both. And in a lot of cases in dance music, the drum sounds are not necessarily particularly expressive. They are very functional. And to get them functional, these are amazing tools.
Have you ever found yourself reading a spectrum, Nick, and said that the spectrum was telling you needed to change something, but you didn't want to change it? And then which way do you go when you encounter that?
Usually he wanted to change it, and because of how it was wrong, and then I would tell him, no, it sounds great. But there's no bass. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can over obsess very easily if you get, because it's not a guarantee of quality in any respect. It can actually, obsessing over this and basing all your decisions on like whether it's a good red line or not it can also completely fuck up your completely mess up your music.
Family.
But if you want to go there for certain sounds, it's a great tool to use and very fun, I think. Yeah.
I got another general mixing question for you. And if you watch YouTube tutorial videos, which I do, it's quite often you'll see people saying you need to roll off, sub 60 hertz on everything that isn't a bass. Is that something you would recommend? For me, it seems to almost hollow things out unnecessarily. What are your thoughts on that?
It depends, right? I mean,
in a lot of cases it's true, but there's it's not.
I just have OCD with it, so it's not even whether I should or not, or whether it's right or not. I just know that I have OCD, and that the thing before where we saw the little blue after thing in the kick, if I would see that, I would just automatically get that out.
Yeah.
More because of OCD or like a habit, and I think that habit in the end ends up like saving your ass in the mix stage sometimes, because you have been proceeding very cleanly, but it is arguably true that sometimes you really don't need to be that clean, and you can lose some thump removing like some sub. But usually when something is in a mix, you wouldn't hear that thump from that sound. So it's only when that part gets granted like a solo section that you could be like, okay, maybe then here we leave the sub in because there's no other sub that it's clashing with.
And analyzers can be tricky, because I think if you have certain sounds, like pulse width modified sounds can show up on an analyzer as having an octave below it. Which makes your analyzer look like you have insane rumble going on. And then if you high pass it, your sound has changed and it's not as cool anymore. But and your analyzer looks good, but it's not as cool anymore. And I also think like, if you, for example, with low end, I would find it highly admirable if somebody was able to make like a club record or something that has a lot of bass, but then has an extra little bit of headroom in the bass for one or two moments in the song where there's some big low impact that adds just a little bit of sub, and is because it's not high passed. That sort of thing can be really, really cool. Like I noticed that in I'm not sure if you know the Doom soundtrack, the game Doom.
Oh, the game Doom. Okay.
Yeah. There's a soundtrack. I forgot the guy's name, but he made a really cool, very noisy metal. Yeah. But it's like electronic metal. Yeah. And there was one really heavy song that had like a sort of, on the one of every 4 bars, there was this extra noise that sounded more like a sort of impact, and it did add bass. And it was like, I would have high passed it because there's a bass line playing, but kind of made it cooler.
It just adds up, right? It just gives it a little more thump there, yeah.
But in general, like of course, the rule of like, if you're mixing and you're mixing for certain loudness targets, anything with a low frequency needs a lot of power in the mix to come across. So anything with a low frequency is going to take up a lot of power in your final mix. So taking out as much as you can is a good idea.
I was thinking more of sounds that don't necessarily have a lot of low end, but you just roll it off anyway because of OCD. That's why I said it depends.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
That was actually my question, was for the other elements outside of the kick and the sub and the bass. Is, do you just automatically roll it off? And what is the target you're usually using there? What frequency range?
100.
And if you're going to, that just depends on the instrument. If your instrument's playing a C3 or C4, you can just high pass it at 100, 200 hertz. If it's a hi-hat, you can high pass it at 1K or whatever, if that works for you. I would say if you're doing that mixing for loudness thing, if you're min-maxing and you're getting rid of all the unnecessary energy, then high pass as high as you can before it sounds like shit.
Just under the fundamental.
But be careful with, resonant high passes and the phase smearing that happens, and the effect that has on your sound.
Yeah, if it's another bass layer that you're high passing, it becomes very critical how you do it. And then you really have to maybe also resample it when it sounds good, so that from then on those phase relations are...
Or linear phase EQ.
Yeah, but then if you're playing multiple notes, then it changes the pitch.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, I know you're all very, very busy, and it's getting late over there. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap up today?
Did we go over? Is there anything in here that we haven't touched on? You can listen to the. You can take all those different signals, factor, range, color maps. Yeah, you can change the mapping of the curve so that it changes. Bias, same thing. Bar graph makes sense.
And as I was saying in the beginning of the stream, for those that missed it, we have a ton of video tutorials on specific things, specific approaches and ways to use Vision 4X in your mix right on the Plugin Boutique channel. There's a playlist. Definitely go check it out if you're looking for more information.
But one last thing we could do is say we have this little bass and kick loop, let's add a hat and a clap and see if we can kind of balance out the mix a little bit using the pink noise curve.
Make the kick shorter though. This kick is shit.
Yeah, we can just...
Let's go back to the old one. Yeah.
Is this the old?
It's the low one.
I think.
And this is the one you obviously. Oh right, you mean we need this one and then normal. That's the first one. This was kind of the normal kick, right?
Bring the volume up a bit.
It's the best.
It's the best.
Bring the hi-hat, Nick.
I have a hi-hat. So
unmute it.
Wait, I didn't want that. I wanted to do this. And then we're going to add a clap in a bit. But first I want to fix the phase because, obviously I can't have this little weird crossover here. Can't have it. Sounds like shit, so.
Nice. Can I do that?
This one.
Yeah, one thing I would say is make a preset and just try not to change it so that you really learn, like especially the bar graph. For me, the settings are different, and I just know that I can't really read it right now because it's not how I have it set. So it's really specific to what you're kind of used to. So stay working with like one setting and then analyze other people's music that you really like, that you think is mixed well in it, and kind of get a grasp on what it's supposed to look like. And then try not to change it too much, because every time you change it, you kind of have to readjust. You're biased.
Let's use the Clapper Pro.
Ooh-wee.
I look into the presets.
This is not great for this particular. Don't need these hits. This is because Bitwig doesn't have MSEGs, but it will in a few days or weeks. It's coming.
Flexible envelopes.
Yeah. That's why I'm using this steps thing to create an envelope for something.
When Nick said the flexible envelopes are coming, it was like, maybe then also my time is coming to
Switch.
start working. I've had Bitwig installed on all my systems for 3 or 4 years. I just never actually made the jump from Ableton to Bitwig, but I really also miss flexible envelopes. Like, I think all Ableton stock instruments should just have flexible envelopes. And maybe because Bitwig just done it, like Ableton will do it in a year. I've been asking for it online, so maybe they will. Would be nice.
Now this hat, I wanna. Yeah, now I'm gonna do stuff that I do in Bitwig, which is not possible in other DAWs.
I just do this with Sidechaining too. It's super crusty.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same though.
No, it's not the same, but it sounds somewhat like it, and that's what I use. But I would love to have this FX grid stuff as well.
Nice.
Okay, we have a banger.
Nice.
Bringing NOISIA back together.
You heard it here, folks. Newsflash.
Well, of course, that's going to be flipped out without context and live forever on the internet.
Okay.
And this sounds like a what is it? Retro remix or something?
Yeah.
Something I remember from.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm not necessarily attached to this, but I figured I'd make a little loop. Mm-hmm. Ooh.
That was the best part.
The only thing left is just to put a multi-band compressor on it.
Then in 4X you see that your mix is great. Well, actually, I mean, it does look super clean.
I love how it's different now. Every odd bar, the sound is different. It changes. You hear that?
Velocity or what?
Has to be so. Yeah, it's the velocity.
Huh? But look, it's looping. This thing is looping. If I do that, then it has the other velocity.
It wasn't that.
It sounds
Yeah, it's clicks or something.
I think it's because of this. Oh, oops. We're not sure. Something's happened. So then, yeah, this plugin will really help you identify what you can't understand.
You will never look like an idiot online. You use this
How many
plugin.
bars is it displaying?
1.
So maybe do 2 and maybe we can identify.
No, I don't. This would be the type of thing that's actually not that easy to see.
If you solo the bass sound, no?
You can see that there's more pronounced high end, but
And is it pre-delayed?
I don't know. I think it's something to do probably with the sidechaining. Yeah.
Detective.
No, this doesn't really work.
Hmm.
Boo, Bitwig.
Boo. Back to Ableton.
Shall we wrap it up, or
He's
you're just gonna write a new song online?
We
I
can go
keep
for round
going.
2. You can finish this track up and we can come back again.
Is there any remaining questions?
I think we knocked out all the questions.
Right.
Okay. Well, can I show you my shaker guy at least?
I mean, yes, absolutely, of course.
So here's shaker guy.
We actually stopped streaming a while ago. It's just us now. So
Okay, so yeah.
I haven't seen this. Is the sequence?
So yeah, this is basically my shaker guy. It's a whole bunch of noise and then a whole bunch of effects to turn them into a shaker thing. So you have all these different noise things going into it. So these will sound different.
Shaker guy.
And it makes a shaker. And you can swing it. And then, that, blah, blah, blah. And then panning, dirt, delay.
I mean, I dig it. I wish it was in Ableton Live.
I lost the character.
You could probably approach it.
You're moving the mouse. Sorry. Do this the old-fashioned way.
Now move the EQ before the distortion.
It is so different.
What if you move all the MIDI to parts numbers 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 3?
What?
If
you move everything to 1 bar later?
Oh, right. It's going to sound different again.
No, it's in the MIDI. Anyway.
Yeah, something's wrong. And this bass sound is not good. Now
it's good.
All right.
It's done.
Well done. Nailed it.
Well, fellas, thank you very much for taking the time to come by and teach us about Vision 4X. Obviously, it's available now on pluginboutique.com. Head over there if you haven't checked it out yet. You definitely should. And all of the other videos that we've already done. And with that, I will let you get back to your busy lives. But next time you want to do it, again, just give me a shout and we will get you back online. Perhaps the next update when it comes out and we got the custom curves possibilities.
Oh, we'll get back to work.
Absolutely wonderful. All right, fella. Take it easy. Ciao, everybody.
Bye.
rising to the top. Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. Hey, why? International, what they call we international. When me ride palm with them in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm with them and then we sit down steady. 40 men on the place, I with the one Jamal skinny.